This podcast includes graphic depictions of true crime cases and may contain explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of We Saw the Devil. This is Robin.
And this is Jackie.
And today's episode is a Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell news update. So we will be covering Chad's arraignment this morning, the update from Fox 10 Phoenix regarding Joseph Ryan's death, and various legal documents that have been put into circulation this week.
I guess everyone's wondering, guilty or not guilty, right?
Yeah, everyone's waiting. Before we get into that, just really quick piece of non-Lori Vallow news that we would just like to take a moment to discuss. So we know that many of you, most probably, listen to a wide variety of true crime podcasts. And most of you probably have TikTok. You know, pandemic, I think a lot of people have downloaded TikTok. In either case, you may have run across Sarah Turney, and she's the host of the Voices of Justice podcast. Now, her sister, 17-year-old Alyssa Turney, disappeared in May of 2001, the very day she finished her junior year of high school. And Sarah knew that her father, Alyssa's stepfather, was responsible. And because they found a handwritten note saying that she had run away to California, investigators believed that Alyssa just ran away. But Sarah knew that her father was responsible for the crime. And over the years, Sarah compiled evidence. She started the Voices of Justice podcast. She got on TikTok to tell her sister's story and talk about that evidence. She's had multiple websites, one being Justice for Alyssa. She bought billboards, and she literally did not let Alyssa's case die. Finally, yesterday, almost 20 years later, Alyssa's stepfather, 72-year-old Michael Turner, was finally arrested and charged with second-degree murder for her death.
That's incredible, and considering this happened also in Phoenix.
It did, and we're so proud of Sarah. I mean, can you imagine knowing that your sister was murdered by your own father and no one cares, no one's investigating? She had a couple fake leads, like a man in Florida said that he killed her, and through all of this, she persisted, and because she knew in her core that her father killed her sister.
There is something to be said about that sisterly bond.
No, it was super incredible, and again, Sarah, we are so proud of you. Let's talk about our social media handles. So you can find us at We Saw the Devil on Twitter, at We Saw the Devil on Facebook, and at We Saw the Devil Podcast on Instagram. And as far as our Patreon, many of you have actually reached out and said that you want to become patrons, but you don't want to have a monthly charge. And fear not, Patreon just came through and they now have annual subscriptions.
The time is nigh.
And you actually get 2 months free.
What?
If you are interested in our Patreon, we have things like merch, stickers, a case of the month postcard, shout outs, an amazing Facebook group just for patrons, ad-free episodes if you're tired of ads. If you are interested, you can go to patreon.com/We Saw the Devil or our website at WeSawTheDevil.com.
So what about that arraignment today?
Jackie, you were completely convinced that Chad would plead not guilty.
Yeah, it's just kind of Pryor's language and how he approached the preliminary hearing and stuff. That's what kind of convinced me of that.
And he did.
Yeah, which is crazy, right? I mean, I guess we were all hoping he would do us all a favor and say guilty, but I mean, I hate to say it, but even though the justice system wants to paint people as innocent before they are proven guilty, we kind of have a bias in it.
Now we have a trial, and that's going to be interesting to follow and watch.
Well, it'll help us understand what evidence they actually have. So
Chad's trial is set for January 11th. It's going to go on for 3 weeks. There will be a pre-trial conference on December 10th at 10:30 a.m. But yeah, Monday, January 11th, Chad's trial will begin. It'll go from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a lunch in between. And it is all going to be broadcast.
Now, everyone is probably thinking, why is it going to take so long until the trial? Mm-hmm. I don't want to wait that long.
I don't either.
It kind of sucks. But, I mean, justice turns slowly.
Yep.
You know what I think? I think that we're going to have to maybe go to Rexburg for it.
We are planning on going to Rexburg.
Come on, vaccine.
Yeah, can we go ahead and get a vaccine for this Rona crap?
I mean, how incredible would it be to be there and meet the people in Idaho?
Mm-hmm. Well, you have already been to Rexburg.
I have, but I didn't get to meet really any of you. So that'd be really neat and see it in person. And we could actually record right after seeing it live. That'd be so crazy.
It would be fun.
So what do you think is going to happen next, Robin?
Well, let's start with the news of the week and go from here. So Chad's trial, we had the pretrial conference again on December 10th. Also this week, Lori Vallow's arraignment in district court has been vacated and rescheduled for September 10th at 10 a.m. So she'll appear in front of Judge Dane Watkins to face those 2 counts of conspiracy to conceal, destroy, or alter evidence. I know everyone was really upset that her arraignment was vacated, but now we have to wait until September 10th.
Now, when it comes to Lori Vallow, you made a valid point earlier as to why she's probably not going to be able to do the insanity plea, because I asked the question. I think a lot of you have that question.
Idaho is one of only 4 states without a criminal insanity defense. And to save you a very long story, basically the last time that this was revisited was back in 2012. And the U.S. Supreme Court actually denied a chance to review Idaho's status of not having an insanity defense. There was a case involving a man by the name of James Delling, and he was a paranoid schizophrenic who in 2007 basically became convinced that people he knew were trying to kill him and destroy and harvest his brain. And he murdered 2 people in Idaho and then apparently went down to Arizona and tried to kill a 3rd person. And he knew what he was doing and he knew that it was wrong, but he fully believed that he acted in self-defense. All but 3 other states would have allowed him to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, but he didn't have that option available to him. So the court actually sentenced him to life in prison for 2 counts of second-degree murder. Now, on an appeal, his attorney this got foisted up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear the case. They basically said that, nope, Idaho's court, that decision stands, and they declined to take it. Only 3 U.S. Supreme Court justices disagreed with the decision not to hear the case. You can thank Stephen Breyer, the notorious RBG, and then Sonia Sotomayor for disagreeing with that. They wanted to hear it. Idaho used to actually have an insanity defense, but in 1982, its attorney general said, quote, "It's being abused all over the country and in Idaho. It was being offered as a defense even in traffic cases."
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a little crazy, but it should be an option on the table. However, in Idaho, guys, it is not.
That's really interesting. And also, I didn't mean to make a pun about it being that's crazy.
Idaho not having an insanity defense plea is actually really controversial. It is actually a huge part of apparently what the ACLU of Idaho works for. They're trying to assist in drafting a piece of legislation which would introduce it back into session. Basically, if that bill were to ever pass, it would change the law so that a judge would have to determine if it is fair for prosecutors to seek the death penalty against those with serious mental illness. It's not even adding an insanity defense. It's just basically saying, is this person too mentally ill to execute? Okay, we'll still give them life in prison. Instead of allowing them, say life in a mental hospital or, something like that, where severely mentally ill criminals in most of the country spend their time.
So now that we know that information, what could Lori do?
Here is basically how it works in Idaho. Even though she can't plead not guilty by reason of insanity, the judge can actually still find her incompetent to stand trial. And basically that would mean that she's so unaware of her surroundings as a whole that she's unable to assist in her own defense in any sort of meaningful way. So if that were to happen, which I highly doubt it, the judge could actually commit her for 90 days to one of Idaho's 2 state mental hospitals. If she's deemed, quote, dangerously mentally ill, then she could be committed to a ward in the Idaho Maximum Security Institution. Again, I find that highly unlikely. Let's just say it happens, and Lori is deemed incompetent and is sentenced to 90 days in a hospital. After that first 90 days, if the judge feels that she's still incompetent, then they can actually commit her for another 180 days. Basically, the entire point of this is to, quote, restore her, the defendant, to competency through, psych eval, psych assistance, medication, treatment. Their entire goal is to try to restore that person to competency so that they can actually get out back to jail and then appear in court to go through a trial. There have been multiple instances of this. And again, the ACLU and people are very, very, very displeased about this type of setup in Idaho. Whereas hospitals are focused on healing, right? Like hospitals are focused on trying to get you better. Jails are not. So, it would make sense if a person is severely mentally ill and they're constantly in crisis, that would be a good option for a hospital, rather than sticking in jail.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Why, for a person who's severely mentally ill, would we keep putting them through these cycles?
I don't think it helps.
It likely doesn't. But, in the case of Lori, I find all of this to be completely a non-issue. I don't think that the judge is going to deem her incompetent.
But it's interesting nonetheless. I mean, it's still an option.
It is. And again, Idaho is only one of 4 states to not have, the ability for a defendant to plead not guilty by reason of insanity. So,
Idaho's kind of weird. I mean, like when you see the facts on that, it's like, why?
Yeah, it's very odd. So we will see how it turns out, but just a little tidbit there that because in one of the documents, and we'll go through, this here momentarily, it seems like they may be trying to go the incompetent route. We'll see. And then also a couple days ago on August 17th, that was Charles Vallow's birthday.
Yes, it was.
He would have been 64 years old. As everyone knows now, Charles Vallow was a very complicated individual, and what happened to him, it's heartbreaking. Still, even looking back and doing research for current episodes, and, we have promised going back through the timeline of the events and doing kind of a primer intro episode. We've actually gotten a lot of emails from people being like, look, I want to get my mom or my spouse or a friend into this case, and it's so crazy. Can you do one concise episode giving the A to Z of everything that happened to get people into it? So we are still going to do it, guys. There's just so much going on. But so Charles Vallow was watching his journey and him trying to get help from an attorney to calling the police, and he was just failed at every turn.
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking what happened to him.
It really is. So again this week, so Justin Lum, our beloved Justin Lum of Fox 10 Phoenix, obtained the police report on Joseph Ryan's death. Now, if you recall, Joseph Ryan was found dead upstairs in his apartment in his bed on April 3rd of 2018. And Lori Vallow was still listed as next of kin. 10 days after the police found Ryan's body, they contacted Lori. And Lori claimed that she had not heard from him in over 2 years. And then she did admit that she did, have a daughter with him. But the autopsy stated that it was a natural cause of death. And the cause of death was arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease. And it was listed as a natural death. And I know that since this case has gone into the public view, the cause of death for Joseph Ryan has been wildly speculated.
I'm not going to lie. It'd be really hard for me to say that. Cardiovascular. I think it's really weird, though, that we are just now seeing the report.
There's been a lot of speculation on the case. If you recall, months and months and months ago, Annie Cushing said that, no, the case was not reopened. And then a couple months ago, she said, yes, the FBI is taking another look at Joseph Ryan's death. Multiple people said, even a couple of weeks ago, that yes, the FBI and the Phoenix police are now once again looking into Joseph Ryan's death. And there's a lot of speculation on whether that is true or not. The Phoenix Police Department says the case remains closed, that they are no longer actively investigating it. This was as of this week. And as expected, the FBI said, well, we can neither confirm nor deny any investigations. So that was pretty useless. But because of Fox 10 Phoenix released the documents, missing that one paragraph for some reason for people, there was a piece in there where it said that Joseph Ryan was found dead upstairs, that the screen of his window was on the outside.
Now, everyone wants to know why.
Yes, everyone wants to know why. And of course, this meant that Alex somehow went there and murdered Joseph Ryan. So in the full police report, it actually states that the police arrived. A person was walking their dog. Their dog starts freaking out. They smelled something terrible. They called police. Police arrived. Joseph Ryan was upstairs. He had double bolted his front door. How with apartments in some houses, you can double lock them. They couldn't get in regardless. So they contacted maintenance of the apartment complex, who got a ladder, went up on his balcony, and took the window screen out to enter his apartment so that they could let police in through the front door downstairs.
Mystery solved.
Mystery solved, guys. There is nothing shady, weird about the window screen. I'm not necessarily in the camp that this could have been completely natural. Obviously we have a confirmation bias on Lori Vallow and what she and Alex Cox are both capable of, but the window screen is certainly is a non-issue.
It's funny you say that. I was actually going to be like, she's definitely capable. So yeah, it's about capability here and pattern of behavior.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't look like it is under investigation for those, of us who are nosy.
I'm nosy.
Now, request for discovery. So since Lori Vallow's case is now with the district court, prosecutor Rob Wood of the state asked the defense to let him know within 14 days whether or not Vallow will raise the issue of mental condition and if expert witnesses will be called upon. So Jackie, that goes to your point of them, wondering if she's going to go for the mental.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting on that. I mean, either way, I know it's unlikely, but I still think it, even though if there's still a small possibility, it could be some extreme thing that they choose. I mean, it's Mark Means after all.
Mm-hmm. It's very true. Mark Means also filed a request for discovery. So he's again asking for copies of books, papers, documents, photos, tangible objects, communications, and that the state may have in regards to Lori. So don't forget, the discovery period is where each side gets a glimpse and hands over the evidence they have against the client.
I don't think we would know what to do without you telling us all this stuff.
And also they, state witnesses, police reports, also digital media recordings. So more or less, this is a repeat of what we've already witnessed through hearings and so on and so forth. Mark Means also filed a motion for extension for transfer of trial. He's asking for 60 days after her initial arraignment, which was on August 27th. Now it's on September 10th. It's still possible that they're going to move the trial. Now, it has come out this week, too, that there were people on the street around Rexburg and Salem areas asking people what they knew about Lori Vallow. They were taking a poll. And both Rob Wood and Mark Means have stated that they're doing some independent research, basically to kind of get a temperature check of the public's perception of the trial, to see basically if the jury pool is tainted, more or less, to see if it needs to be moved.
Is it common with a lot of famous cases like this?
I haven't actually heard of that. Maybe I wasn't looking closely enough. I'm sure this is absolutely common, though.
It's very interesting because it's not every day you actually get to hear that detail.
Honestly, I think the case that I followed most closely was Jodi Arias. I mean, that was in Phoenix. That's a huge city.
Oh, yes.
We're talking about like Rexburg, Salem, Idaho, and not nearly as big as Phoenix. So,
Rexburg's tiny.
And you have, 96% of that area is LDS. Chad and Lori have roots in the LDS church. And because the town is so small, I mean, it really is small, guys. Comparatively speaking, they're trying to do their polling research.
I know some of our listeners actually live in the area, and I feel so bad for you guys if you ever have an ex that you have to deal with, because it's a small area, and it's like, who wants to run into their ex? Come on.
That's the nature of living in a small town.
That's kind of like what it's like with a jury pool, right? You have a bad breakup, and then you have to get an opinion of people around you about your breakup, or you have to deal with your ex. It's kind of like you don't want someone who has to deal with your ex as a part of a jury or whatever, Yep. Everyone knows everyone.
It's true. Now, also this week, the judge ordered that both Lori and Chad's hearings are to be live streamed to the public. Now, we just watched Chad's this morning, so that's Chad's. Next up is Lori's on September 10th. So that judge released it. And yeah, so I'm hoping this means, and I did speak earlier saying that, well, the trial is going to be, televised and broadcast. We don't have necessarily any information on that yet. It's kind of assumed, but I don't believe a document has been, a legal brief has been filed or a motion has been filed for that. So I would like to just correct that. If you have information otherwise, please let me know. The title of this episode is, Are There Breaking Murder Charges? Because so many people were like, oh my God, people follow the iCourt.Idaho.gov portal and stay up to date with Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. So a couple days ago, a bunch of charges appeared on August 17th for the new district courts for Stephen Boyce as the judge. And people are like, oh my God, this means that new criminal felony charges are coming. The murder charges are coming. The murder charges are coming. Upon second glance, no, not necessarily. All this means is that these charges had to be refiled for the district court. And as you see on the iCourt portal, it says August 21st, 2020 arraignment for Chad Daybell, and then it gives the judge and it, different filings. So no new charges yet, guys. I am sorry to disappoint. No new charges. It's just it had to be charged in the district court now that we're going to big boy land.
It's not every day you have something like this happen.
It is not.
It's been a crazy ride so far, like with all the weird culty fundamentalist fringe beliefs and the children.
It's a wild ride.
Yeah, it's almost like as rare as a comet hitting Earth.
It is. Guys, this is this week's news update, okay? So here's what we are going to do. This is kind of our little episode, just going over the news and Chad's arraignment. We have an episode coming out later today on Jason Mao. We did a deep dive on Jason Mao, tried to glean as much information about him as humanly possible, and that will be coming out later this afternoon.
We have thanked the gods and sacrificed the lamb. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No lambs were harmed in the making of the Jason Mao episode.
That's true. So yeah, that will be coming later this afternoon. Next week, we will be going back to, keeping you up to date on the latest Lori Vallow news. And then we will also be doing our primer/introductory episode for those of you who have requested it.
You can't forget our afterthoughts. I think that Robin has some hot tea to pour, don't you?
Hot tea indeed. So...
Is it piping?
It's piping. So again, guys, don't forget to follow us on Facebook at We Saw the Devil, Twitter at We Saw the Devil, Instagram at We Saw the Devil Podcast. We were a little late to the Instagram game, so give us some love on Instagram. We're trying to build up. Twitter has been our main platform for quite a while. Other than that, our website is WeSawTheDevil.com. And again, if you want some goodies, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/We Saw the Devil. And we have the new annual subscription ability with 2 months free. That's it for today, guys. We will see you later this afternoon with our Jason Mao deep dive.
Until next crime.